You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan England, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit hiring system, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. You are in for a treat today. I'm your host, Ryan England, and today I sit down with Tom Reber of the Contractor Fight. I don't know if you've heard his name before, but if not, he is definitely someone that you need to learn more about. We have an amazing conversation today. We're going to talk about all things related to helping contractors get more out of their business so they can focus more on the things that are important. That's my personal mission here over at Core Matters, is to help contractors focus on the things that are most important to them. And everything in today's episode is going to help you do just that. Tom, welcome to the show.
Ryan, thanks for having me, man.
I'm excited. We get to talk for a few minutes before I hit record, and I'm like,
right.
Let's hit record and keep talking. This is awesome. So, so you're in the same space I am. You're helping these contractors, these guys that are struggling with all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Tell me, when you work with someone or what you've seen in the industry, what do you think is really holding these guys back? What do you think? Why do they come to people like you and me and say, "Hey, I need help"? What's the one big thing that you're like, if they would just fix that?
Well, on some level, they're stealing from themselves or their families. They're working their tails off. I think there's two types of contractors. There's the one who's broke and stealing from their family, and they just don't know what they don't know. They pay attention to things like the going rate of pricing, which is total garbage. They let themselves get knocked around in the sales process because they're insecure. They haven't trained for that. They don't spend enough time knowing their numbers, building their brand, learning how to sell, those types of things. And the result is they're broke. They're deposit check to deposit check.
Yeah.
And they can't ever seem to get over that hump. And then the second type of person is the one who's been in the game for a while, proven they can run a business, feed their family, make some money, go on some vacations, but they know there's more in the tank. They know there's another level of success they haven't been able to access yet. And so those are the two main types of contractors that seem to come to the Contractor Fight and kind of get into what we're saying and what we're teaching. And we try to just cut through the fluff and show them that, you got to charge what you're worth. And, I have a philosophy. You've been in business as a contractor for more than 2-3 years and you're not paying yourself $250,000 a year. You got a lot of work to do because it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. At Core Matters, we work on the hiring and recruiting side. And so that second group that you were talking about, the ones that are like, hey, I'm paying myself and I'm taking some vacations, but there's more in the tank, but nobody wants to work. Everybody's lazy and entitled. And, that's the problem we solve. So those are the ones we talk to
and
a lot.
That's a big issue. I'm glad you brought that up. The stories we tell ourselves are going to come true, right?
Yeah.
And so what you focus on, you get more of. And I love the fact that you're helping people reframe this. There are plenty of people out there that would love to work for a kick-ass company.
Yeah.
You just got to attract them. You got to be a magnet for them and be on the hunt. I think a lot of people, you could speak to this more than I do because you're in the hiring game, but I just see a huge lack of consistency with recruiting and, they hire when they need people instead of hiring all the time or recruiting all the time and looking to build their team. And and like right now, as we're recording this, it's springtime. We're getting ready. People's phones are probably starting blowing up already. And if you're not on this recruiting and hiring thing now, you're going to get stuck with the meatheads later on that nobody hired. That's who you're going to build your team with.
It's fun. I was just having this conversation earlier today. Everybody comes to me in June and July and they're like, I need help hiring, but I don't have time. My guys are burning out. Like I got this turnover issues. And I was like, well, the best time is 3 months before the busy season. And they're like, well, I don't have money then. Yeah. And it's like, we got to work on leveling things here and realizing that your business, your business is cyclical, plan for it.
100%.
But yeah, they recruit reactively.
Right.
They look at their best guys and their best guys are like, hey, if something doesn't change, my wife told me I got to quit because the OT is killing me.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, maybe we should hire someone new. I'm like, it's too late. Like that guy's already got one foot out the door because his wife's already planted the seed. Maybe you should look around.
Well, and
It's
you
just
know,
crazy.
it's like the NFL draft is going on. I think it's this weekend, right? I think it's coming up here. And you know, if you're waiting and you don't have a great recruiting plan and you're not on the hunt and the attack and building your brand and some of the things we talked about before you hit record, you're going to be stuck with those late round draft picks. And those guys hardly ever work out. I mean, the first round draft picks hardly ever work out, let alone the late ones. Now, the Niners got lucky with Brock Purdy, you know, Mr. Irrelevant was the last pick in the draft. That never happens, right? So, I think there's so much opportunity out there. And so I'd encourage people, reframe the story you're telling yourself, whatever area your business is struggling with. If you're like, I know I need to raise my prices, but nobody will pay those prices. That's BS. Reframe that. You know, you're going to tell me in a town of the 100,000 or 500,000 people that you live in or whatever, there's not 100 to 300 people that would be happy to pay your prices. And in that same town, you're going to tell me that nobody has great character and would want to buy into the vision that you're casting for the future, you know, because in your business, they don't want to be a part of that. That's a crock. And so you got to reframe that stuff.
Oh, man. You and I use so many of the same stories and examples. I say the same thing. You live in a place with 3 million people. You don't think there are 4 real quality guys in 3 million people? They just don't know you exist, or they see it and they're like, dude, that truck is beat up.
Yeah.
And that brand looks awful. Those Yelp reviews. Oh, and the way they respond to the Yelp reviews. I don't want to work for that guy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we see the exact same thing on the recruiting that you're seeing on it. I've never met a contractor that has raised their prices and gone, I shouldn't have done it.
Shouldn't have done that.
That was a dumb idea. And you know what? You do lose a couple clients, but that's okay because they're the ones that need to go anyways.
Yeah. One of my first coaching clients, gosh, decade and a half ago now, or whatever it was he was cutting grass. He had about $1 million landscaping company, and he had a grass cutting division. He had 100 people a week or whatever it was he had to cut. You know, let's call it 100.
Yeah.
And he's at the time he was charging like $40 a cut on average or whatever, you know, and he'd go out there and had a couple crews going, I think it was. And when we looked at what he was making, you know, just on that 100 home route each week, I want to say it was like $4,000 is what he was left with, $3,000 or $4,000. It was pathetic. And I'm like, dude, you need to double your prices. He's like, I can't double my prices. And I'm like, double your prices. Well, he chickened out. He didn't double his prices. He only went 50% higher. You know, so what's that? He went to 60 instead of 40, 80, right?
Yeah.
On average. 3 people left. and it was the right 3 that he wanted to leave, and he immediately gave himself a raise. And I said, what do you think of that? He goes, I should have listened to you. I should have doubled it. Because again, just in theory, right? Especially guys that have service accounts, like that. If you double your prices and lose half the people, you've doubled what you're making on half the people.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're working half the time, making the same amount of money. Like that's a raise in my book.
You're making you've gotten back your time and you're making the same money is what I meant to say. So the opportunities there. And listen, in this day and age, I mean, I see it. We have things around our house that we need done from time to time, and I'll call a contractor. They don't call back. They don't answer their phone. They don't show up. You know, like we had a company doing our weeds and stuff last 2 years, and I'm not hiring them anymore because I got to babysit them. Like every time and I tell the guys, I tell the owner, I'm like, I will pay you more. I know you've only allotted a certain amount of time to our home, you know, because you have these routes. Like put me a day of the week where you give me a day and I will pay for the day or a half a day. I don't care what it is. And they don't listen. They don't pay attention. So you guys listen to this. There's so much low hanging fruit out there in the way that you show up. You answer your phone. You're responsive. You truly listen to the customer's pain. That was my pain. Like every time I walked in my backyard, I found a new weed. You know, and that was like 20 minutes after they were there. And I'm like, are you even paying attention?
Yeah.
You know, like, so that's why I say, I think it's easy in the trades to make money if you're paying attention.
I mean, so much of what you're talking about, those exact same stories, examples we use when we talk about recruiting, they're like, I can't afford a new guy. We had a restoration contractor. So these are T&M companies, right? And they're billing, they're charging $125 an hour. $125 an hour. They have almost no overhead except for some specialized equipment and their training, their licensing, and that's it. Almost no overhead. And I said, if you go from 20 an hour to your techs to 24 an hour, you're going to be getting the top 25% of techs. Like you're going to be in a different echelon. They're like, I don't have $4 an hour. I'm like, what are you doing with the other 100?
Right.
Like you're charging 125 an hour. How do you not have $4 more an hour to pay these guys and get the best of the best? I don't understand. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's it's time. It's time for your people. My wife and I, we had a conversation probably a couple weeks ago about this. Somebody posted something about they didn't want to pay their people more, or whatever it was, and we just kind of observed and we had this discussion. All right, so here's the deal. Like I'll pick a city. I'm from the Chicagoland area originally. Well, you're in Nashville. Let's go with Nashville.
Yeah.
All right. What kind of life is somebody really going to have making less than $100,000 a year in Nashville?
Oh, they're not. They're going to be living an hour from the city. Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, these major cities and stuff where a lot of contractors and your employees are, guys, not just you as the business owner, but your people. Like, why is it okay for some dude who works at an insurance company and sits in a frickin' cubicle all day, with his little soft hands and, handsy attitude, why should he make 80 or 100 grand a year, but the guy, unclogging the toilet for you, or the guy building your addition or painting your house shouldn't make that same amount of money?
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just, and the risks we take as contractors and our people take, the toll it takes on our bodies, the risks and liabilities we take on. I could go on for days. And I, you're like the hiring guru guy. I just know what I know and what's worked for me. Whenever we have an FW, what we call an F and winner in our community, and I tell my people, I'm like, you got an FW, you pay them like 20% more than the industry average, right? So at least 20% more, and give them an opportunity. Like, why do people stay with, or why do FWs, or what you call rock stars, right?
Yeah.
Why do they leave? Let's think about why they leave. They leave because they don't see what's in it for them anymore to work for you.
Whiff them.
They don't see, whiff them. What's in it for me to stay here? What's in it for me to give my talents, my sweat, my blood, make sacrifices, work in the cold, work in the heat, whatever it is, just to not have a future, not have a chance at a retirement, not have some paid vacation and some benefits and stuff. So you guys, there's so much opportunity if we just change our mindset. I mean, that's why we call my company the Contractor Fight, because the fight's between your ears. You got to win the battle between your ears. The way you show up, the way you communicate with yourself, the way you talk to yourself, you're going to get more of that story you tell.
Yeah. I was thinking, so we just moved about a year ago, got a house, had all sorts of contractors that we called. And there's this perception that contractors are lazy, contractors are entitled, contractors are bum. Oh, wait, we talk about the millennials that way, but this is what we think of contractors. And you know what I learned? I learned that when I called a contractor and he was the low price, he was the one that didn't show up. He was the one that rescheduled. He was the one that didn't do a good job, and I had to fire him halfway through the job.
100%.
And so I, as the consumer, said, I don't want the low price guy, because the low price guy is going to cost me so much more.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We coach a lot of like remodeling contractors, GCs and stuff like that. And they subcontract a lot of their work out. And I'm like, guys, I'm a fan of subbing out to established companies that have their shit together. You know what I mean? Like it's going to keep you on schedule. Like I was a, painting contractor for many years. We did 300-400 projects a year. I did we had our residential repaint division. And then we had like our remodelers and builders and GCs that we'd work for. And when, in fact, my current CEO was one of my remodeling contractors that I used to sub for. And now he works for me, damn it.
Nice.
But he actually fired me like 3 times. But anyway, but he knew that we would be there and honor the schedule, because we were running like a real company, and we were running like a real company. Yeah, you got the processes and systems and the leadership and all that, but also because we paid our people really well, we gave them a chance to win, and they never blew off work. They always came to work. We didn't have those typical issues because we made their lives better. And that in turn made us more reliable to our GCs and remodelers. So I see a lot, GCs and remodelers get a bad rap. I think a lot of them, specialty contractors usually look at a builder or a GC and go, those guys are all cheap. They just want to pay cheap. They just, blah, blah, blah. I think that's another story that's BS.
Yeah.
I think, no, they need to work with somebody who's got their act together and see how it's actually making them more money and not causing them a bunch of headaches. And that, again, will flip the story in their head too.
I do think a lot of the problem is we have a few bad apples out there ruining it for everybody else. I've worked with some painting contractors, especially in the Southwest, and they're like, oh, I don't hire my own guys because none of them can legally work here. So what they do is they find a crew lead, and they find a guy that's got 3 or 4 guys that work with them. And he's like, that's their problem if they're not authorized to work here, not my problem.
Right.
And so they have that mentality of that's why I'm going to sub it out. And sometimes it works for them and sometimes it doesn't, but it's a gamble every single time. And I see it happen over and over again. I mean, I'm actually a fan of getting rid of the 1099, getting rid of the contractor. When you're an established company and you're a solid leader and you know that you can bring people in who are going to want to work with you, start bringing them in, make them W-2, make them a part of the family, make it a place where they can call home, where you actually get to learn about them and know about them. And that's one of the things that I think most contractors miss. Is they think, oh, this is the trades. This is blue collar. There's no emotion here. We don't need to get to know these guys or know their family. I will tell you the most important thing in most of these guys' lives is their family.
100%.
And if you don't pay attention to that family and you don't care about the things they care about, they're never going to care about you and your business.
So in the I hate this name of this thing, but the Great Recession in 2008. I just hate the name.
It's marketing.
Recession. Yeah, whatever. The recession in 08. Our lead flow took a hit, everything took a hit. If you were in business in the trades back then, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
We actually came through on the other end of it more profitable. And I want to share a little bit of how we did that, mainly from the people point of view. Before the recession hit, one of our crew leaders came to me one day, and I had a business partner as well. And he came to me and he said, hey, you got a minute? And I said, yeah, what's up? And he goes, and I think at the time we had about 15 employees in the field. He said, we leave in the morning, we leave our houses and it's dark. We get home and it's dark. It happened to be winter time, right? So when we're having this conversation, and we, we're typically on the job site at 7:30. We're there and we do what needs to be done. And they were great. And I said, well, what's the deal? And he said, well, you and Bruce, who was my partner, he goes, you guys get to have breakfast with your family if you want. You can walk your kids to the bus if you want. And it's funny, at the time, is like 12 or so out of the 15 employees we had young little kids that were like of school age. And I said, what are you after here? And he says, would it be okay if one day a week, we just had a later start so we can have breakfast, with the kids and, or walk them to the bus or whatever. And I said, and we had a couple days till our next crew leader meeting. I said, let's talk about this at the crew leader meeting. Well, in between then and the crew leader meeting, I pulled my partner to go aside and we talked. Guys came into the meeting, and we're like, guys, here's the deal. You're grown adults, you're men, you know the job, you know what needs to be done. As long as projects are done on time, as long as everything's ethical and it's safe and it's a great experience for the client and all this other stuff, you have full reign to come and go as you want, start times, end times, whatever you want to do, it's on you. And their eyes lit up. And what was cool is guys would be like, guys that are employees in a painting company, guys, it wasn't the owner. This was like, hey, so-and-so's kid has a soccer game at 4:00. And we just said, work it out with the crew leader. And the crew leader's like, yeah, Tuesday, just bolt early and go to the kid's game. We got you. We'll cover you. Okay. And that approach that we took, I believe, saved us when we went into that recession, because I remember sitting the company down and I said, guys, leads are tough right now. Sales are tough, this and that. I said, you all do what you got to do to take care of your family. I totally get it. But we're doing what we have to do to keep the business alive. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable for all of us. So my partner and I announced we were taking 30% pay cuts. And then we said everyone was going to get a 20% pay cut on their hourly. I said, however, we put in a thing we called our crew leader management fee, which allowed them to actually make more money based on how we brought jobs in. So even though we cut their hourly, the performance and some of the other things that we did, we were more profitable through that. And not one of our employees left. And I left the company because I said, I think we're stronger together than we are apart. All right. But I understand you got to do what you got to do. We got to do what we got to do, because if there's no company, there's no income for any of us.
Wow.
And nobody left. And then on the other side of this, I don't know, year or two after that whole thing, I remember pulling that crew leader aside who asked me about, walking their kids to the bus and stuff. I said, man, why did you guys all stay? And he just looked at me and he says, because we feel like you guys care and we like the people that we work with and we're a family here.
I love that.
So this is what I mean. What's in it for them, you guys?
Yeah.
All right. Like you gotta, the world treats people in the trades in a lot of cases, not everybody, of course, but treats men and women in the trades like they're second-class citizens. Okay. And sometimes if we're not careful as an owner, we're doing that too by not respecting them and their family and their lives and their income and all those different things. You can easily do that. One of our sales coaches, he was telling me, he's in Nashville. We just had an small event down in Nashville there. And he was telling me about, he was at a building where his plumber buddy, who owned a big plumbing company, was working. The owner rolled his sleeves up, had to jump in some pit in this building and just covered in gunk, right? I don't know the whole situation.
Yeah.
And he said while he was in the pit, the building owner shows up with his 10-year-old son. And he looks at this guy down in the hole, and he's got this arrogant little, he had like that. Remember the term yuppie?
Oh yeah.
Yuppie hair and his little penny loafers or whatever he had on, wuss. Anyway, sorry, I no filter here.
That's okay.
He says, see, son, that's why you need to stay in school so you don't end up like this guy.
Wow.
Down in this pit. What he didn't know is the owner of the company who was filling in to bail this business owner out of a problem because his whole crews were all booked. He went out there. This guy was paying himself $1 million a year personally.
Wow.
And he's ripping on him, making the assumption that just because he's in the trades, he ain't making any money and he's not worth anything. Yeah. And that is the heart of why I started the Contractor Fight, is to bring respect and dignity back to the trades. It's time for contractors to start living in gated communities and not just working in them.
Yeah.
Right. It's time for you to make $1 million a year or $500,000 a year, and your people, your top people in your company to be making six figures and beyond. Give people a future.
Yeah.
Right. It happens in all these other industries, but people don't want to go into the trades because contractors aren't making money and their people aren't making money, and it's not attractive. So what do all the young people want to do? Oh, I'm going to go be an influencer, and all this other garbage. And it's just, it isn't right. So,
one of the things I love about the trades, and it's not for everybody, but it's one of the few professions that you can get into. Not only are you going to learn a lifelong skill, not only are you going to be able to save yourself money, because guess what? You have mechanical aptitude. You're going to start doing some repairs around the home. You're not going to need as many contractors. Not only going to save yourself a lot of money over time, but if you want to, it's one of the easiest industries to go start your own business,
100%.
Build a team, leverage other people's talents and time, and pay yourself $1 million. You're not going to do that as an influencer. There's one Jimmy Donaldson in the world, right? Good luck.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of opportunity, but I think it comes back to what you both said with them, right? What's in it for them? You continually, what's in it for your clients to hire for you? It's the same, I think marketing, you need to market for clients, you need to market for people. Build your brand that tells a story. You're telling a story. What's the story when if you're a painter and painting contractor and you need painters, when some guy who's a painter is flipping through Instagram, what's he seeing?
Yeah.
When he lands on your stuff, what kind of culture does he see? What kind of content does he see? How are you being a little polarizing in your industry.
Yeah.
Imagine doing a video where you're like, hey, if you're a painter in Colorado Springs, we actually, our starting pays at $30 an hour. So if you're not getting the respect that you deserve, hit our website.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
You got to pay people. And listen, with big boy money comes big boy responsibilities. So people don't level up.
Yeah.
And you get rid of them too.
Yeah.
I've made that mistake. I had a thing we called Black Monday back in my painting company. I fired 7 employees in 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it's a really long story that we don't have time for. But my point is we were held hostage we had 12 employees at the time, and I fired 7 in 20 minutes on one job site. And we took control back of our company because we had been held hostage by these guys for like 2 years. They're like, I'm not working on so-and-so's crew, and I'm only going to work with him. And it was that whole thing because they knew we needed them.
Yep.
And, and the final straw was the crew leader told one guy at a job to, hey, you need to get a work light because you can't see in that area of the basement you're working on. He goes, I'm not getting a light. He wouldn't listen to the crew leader to go get a work light. So I told the guy on Monday when I met him, I said, you need to listen to the crew leader. And he goes, well, I'm not going to listen to him unless you pay me more. And I said, well, I'm not going to pay you more and you don't work here anymore. Have a good day. Go get your tools.
Wow.
Right? And then that just started this cascade of like, the next guy came out and he's like, well, that's my ride. And if you fire him, then I got to leave too. I said, see you later. Like, I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that. Right. So I grew up in an era where my dad in the trades, he was like throwing things at people and F-bombing everybody.
Oh yeah.
That sort of leadership. That's how we grew up. Right. I'm not advocating being a jerk like that, but if you're being held hostage by your people right now, that's on you. And you gotta plant your flag.
Well, and I'll bet you woke up Tuesday morning and you're like, gosh, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the moment it hurt, but.
Well, and here's the thing, our gross profit went up like 10 points immediately.
Wow.
Because we kept the right 5. We paid the right 5 more. They didn't have the distraction of the toxic 7.
Yep.
Right. And all the drama. And the 5 were more productive. We actually made more money with the 5. And some people hear this, they're like, well, of course you made more money. You fired 7 people. No, we were more productive. We actually produced more work with the 5. And those 5, which is funny, 3 of them ended up being 3 of those crew leaders that got us through the recession.
Wow. Wow.
So anyway.
Yeah, no, that's great. We don't talk a lot about A, B, and C players, but most people understand that concept. Mm-hmm. And there's this mindset, oh, I just need the set of hands. I just need an extra body. I just need an extra body. And they're like, and I don't have any A players. I don't have any rock stars. I don't have any FWs. Like that's their mindset. And I'm like, I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do have those rock stars. They're just too damn busy picking up the pieces of all your C players that they don't get a chance to shine.
One of my former business partners in our coaching programs, he's former because he retired. He'll tell you, like, he sold his company to his top 2 guys in 2020. And they both started as laborers and all this other stuff and worked for him for 10, 12 years. And then they bought the company for a few $million.
Sure.
And people are like, oh, you're so lucky that you have those guys. You found those guys. And Steve, my old partner, will tell you, he's like, no, those guys were always there. I was a shitty leader for 30 years. He's like, I can't, these guys are Mike and Andrew. He's like, I can't imagine how many Mike and Andrews I burned through and drove away because I didn't understand how to be a better leader. So I would challenge anybody right now that you're looking at your team going, I don't have anybody good.
Yeah.
I don't have anybody that could grow with me and this and that. Listen, I don't know your context 100%, but I guarantee you that if you really start looking and investing and get some clear standards and non-negotiables of things that are important to you around who gets to be on your team and who's not and who you're going to invest your time into, you'll be blown away how people step up.
Well, and I think, a lot of what we do is predicated on this fact. And most people will tell me they agree with this, but people don't leave jobs. They leave bosses.
Yeah.
And so if you lose a guy for $2 an hour, he's not leaving for $2 an hour. He's leaving you. No. And you need to be comfortable with that. But they also stay because of bosses. Mm-hmm. And if you're that leader in their life that's helping them achieve their own goals, not just your goals, but their own goals. We had a client a few years back that they surveyed a bunch of their people and they said, what do you want to accomplish? And these were the hourly entry level, learning the trades. And they said, yeah, I would just love to get out of debt. I would just love to buy a house. I would just love. So you know what they did? They brought in real estate and mortgage professionals and they helped them with credit repair. And they did all these things and the retention went through the roof. These people became so much more productive because like no one else is taking care of my family, the things that are important to me, like this company is. I'll bend over backwards for them to make sure it happens. It's
well, that's interesting. You bring up the employees and that story you just shared. My second book comes out in the fall of this year, but my first book's called Winning the Contractor Fight. And there's a chapter in there where I call it the profit path. And there is so if I stand in front of 100 contractors and let's say, you know, they're all struggling with making the profit they want to make. If I say to them, how do you fix this problem? What's the first thing you got to do? They're going to say one of two things, because I've done this live 1,000 times.
Yeah.
They're either going to say, I got to level up the quality of work, because that's just where contractors default, right? Is the work, right? The product, the craftsmanship, which is great. Or they'll say, I got to make my customers happier. However, the true profit path is it starts with strong leadership, right? You got to be strong as a leader, look in the mirror, have a clear vision, all that other stuff. Then it's building an intentional culture. All right. What kind of culture do I want to build? You got to get clear on this. And then the third thing is employee satisfaction. Then it's employee loyalty. Then that produces employee productivity, which in turn produces higher quality work, which in turn satisfies a client, which in turn creates a loyal client, which in turn gives you repeatable profit over and over and over. So it's an inside out game. We always talk in the Contractor Fight, strong you, strong home, strong business. Well, that profit path is an inside out game. It's you, it's our culture, it's our employees, and then out to the customers.
I love it.
You know, so if your business isn't growing right now, the way you want it to, start loving up on your people. You know, and satisfied employees, it's not just about paying them, or yes, we covered the money thing here, right? But it's like you just said, you know, I want to get out of debt. You know, maybe they never went on a honeymoon because they couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And, you know, one of the things my old partner used to do in our painting company, it was great. He would sit down with all of our guys. He pretty much ran the field. He'd get to know them. He's like, what do you want to accomplish this year? You know, some guys are like, I want to take my wife to this bed and breakfast. It's $3,000. He's like, all right, let's figure out a plan to make you the money.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, you guys. You start doing that, nobody's leaving. I promise.
Absolutely.
Because the minute they come home and they go, yeah, I'm thinking of getting another job, their wife's going to go, no, you're not.
You know, the listeners right now have no idea that you and I just met and we have not worked together or talked before, but I have a very similar concept that I teach where we talk about the experience inside your business. We talk about, and it's represented by an apple. Right? There's 3 layers of an apple. There's a core, there's the flesh, there's the skin. The skin is our brand experience. It's what people see. It's the wraps on your truck. It's the quality of truck. It's the materials and the tools that you use. It's your website. That's the brand. And we put so much money and energy into that brand because, we got to stand out. But then there's the flesh of that apple, the customer experience. That's what people pay you for. Yeah. They want a real, healthy, juicy, sweet tasting experience. That's what they want. But you know the core of that apple? The core of that apple is made up of your team.
Yeah.
And we forget that we have to create the employee experience. And if you have an unhealthy core, you got an unhealthy apple. It doesn't matter. And so instead of all that effort into better care of the customer, take better care of the customer, let's take better care of the employee who will then go and take better care of your customer. And your customer in this day and age will take care of your brand and you will never struggle to grow again. It's just the way you think.
You could just drop the mic on that one right there, man. So, yeah, I you know, like I said, we have I don't have the apple, but I have a circle, you know, 3 circles. The center circle is you, the next one is home, and the next one is business. Most contractors put the business first, all in the name of providing for the people they love, right? I mean, if working hard were a prerequisite to being successful in business and making a shit ton of money, then contractors be the richest guys in the world, right? So nobody's doubting that y'all are working hard. You're working in the wrong order. So that's why we talk about, you got to build a strong you. You got to eat right and, you know, get off the sauce, you know, and stop doing meth or whatever you're doing. I'm kidding. But, eat right, exercise, move your body, like those types of things. Get sleep, read things, take care of you, whatever get oxygen means to you, right? Then it's about, if you're married, it's about dating your spouse every week. It's about, putting the family things on the calendar first and honoring the commitments that you're making to show up and be there and not be the typical person that's like there are always seasons in the trades. Sure. I get that. Right. But, take care of that, because here's the interesting part. Who you are and what's going on at home goes with me to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not strong here and under my own roof and the relationships and all that, I'm taking that with me into my business and I'm going to underperform. Hands down. Ask me how I know, because I did it for many years. I mean, listen, I pretty much, I created, I'm on my second marriage, happy as can be, but my first marriage, I had the priority flipped. I loved my family and, my wife and my kids and all that, trying to provide for them, but I always put the business first in the name of taking care of them. And it was flipped, and I kind of burned it to the ground.
It's interesting that you say that you're going to bring your home life to the to the shop or to the job site. And you know what? It's funny. I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, these guys, they've all got baggage. They've all got drama. All these people that I'm hiring, they bring their home life here. Yeah. It drives me nuts.
So do you.
But they don't think that. They don't know that.
We all do.
It's really easy to point out others' faults.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
can't point out our own. Tom, this has been awesome. I can't believe how long we've been recording. Anybody, like, you stuck with it, this was a valuable episode. There was so much here. I mean, still so much more to unpack. Tom, I know there are people going, okay, I got to know this guy. I got to know what this contractor fight is. I need help with this. I don't know if you've got a free offer for our listeners, something that can help them, or just tell us how to get a hold of you.
I do. First of all, you can go anywhere, the Contractor Fight online, and you'll find us. I want to give you guys a tool, because we talked a lot about making money, right? It's a lot easier to pay people more if you're making more.
Yeah.
Right. And most contractors they just don't know how to sell. They don't know how to sell value. They don't this and that. So head to thecontractorfight.com/SFST. Okay. And if you can't remember that, you can go to thecontractorfight.com, and up in the menu, there's a thing that says courses, and it's Shinfu sales training. It's our sales training process that we teach. And we will, I promise you will make more money. Like, you will spend less time running around doing bids for people that are never going to be your customer and that are ghosting you. You, in a 15-minute phone call before you ever get in your truck and go to somebody's job site, you're going to know if they're going to write you a deposit check or not. Okay. So I'm going to help you recapture a bunch of your time. Most people that do this save 30 to 50% of their estimating time, and they make more money.
Wow.
Okay. So, and thousands of contractors around the world in all different industries are using this, implementing in their business. It's another weapon we're going to give you to win this fight.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Thank you. And so if they want to know more, Contractor Fight, you guys have a bunch of programs, different ways that they can engage with you. I love this one. The Shinfu sales program thank you for that. Thank you. Tom, this was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for us to talk further on this, maybe have you back in a few months and we can dig into this a little bit more. It was great.
You got it, Ryan. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. Ryan England here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.